listener production.
From the kitchen to the culture wars, from big ideas to even bigger flavours, this is the Weekend Briefing, where we go beyond the headlines and straight to the people shaping what's next. I'm Antoinette Lattouf, and today I'm hanging out with Kishwar Chowdhury, MasterChef finalist, proud Bangladeshi-Aussie and all-round food powerhouse. We chat about life after reality TV, cooking through grief, and why she's dreaming big and high with her next cookbook, plus what's exciting her most about the future of food. And later it is Weekend List time, your no BS guide to what's worth watching, seeing, doing, eating and listening to. Stick around, you'll thank me later. First, here's my chat with Kishwar Chowdhury. Kishwar Chowdhury, welcome to the Weekend Briefing.
Thank you so much, Antoinette. I am so happy to be here.
I always wonder this when it comes to chefs or people with sophisticated palates when it comes to food. Like, what is something that you love to purchase, albeit guiltily or quietly, that you're not always proud to share? Like, for me, it's a 4 and 20 meat pie or a double cheeseburger through Macca's drive-through. What's your lowbrow guilty pleasure that you wouldn't talk about with your chef mates?
Okay. I think something that Melburnians are particularly snobby about and will be horrified to hear is I don't think Macca's drive-through coffee is all that bad. It just has its perks. It really does.
You're going to be kicked out of the state.
I know, as a Melburnian. I will. I feel I have little fear because I don't think I fall into the highbrow status in any sort of chef circle anyway. But Macca's coffee might be just like my guilty pleasure. And I'll tell you what, it's the convenience. When you're juggling and you're, wearing all these hats and you still got to go to basketball practice and training, just going through that drive-through and getting a medium almond latte sometimes is a little bit of a lifesaver. So that's my lowbrow purchase.
Let's get to many of your highbrow food moments. You were on season 13 of MasterChef as a runner-up. What was that experience like for you? And did it surprise any of your friends or family that you would go on MasterChef, or was it quite well known about your love for food and your aptitude for cooking?
No, I think I surprised myself by going on MasterChef.
Oh, really?
Oh, that I ended up on it. Yeah, it was a very, very COVID lockdown sort of moment, sliding doors moment in my life. My son wanted to apply to MasterChef and they just had this call out for junior MasterChef. And I was like, you should do this. You're so great in the kitchen and we cook a lot. And in terms of food and cooking and what I do, I don't think I'd ever Instagrammed about it before I'd even reached MasterChef. It was something I inherently did. It was something that my family, I guess it was the heart and soul of our home, our kitchen. And it wasn't just about cooking. It was about the weekly ritual of going to the markets, and we have obviously our dry food run, but where we get our fish and seafood, we grew up fishing. We mill our own flour. My father owns a farm, so we have our own cattle, and we've always reared our own cattle, and even going to live auctions. So I think I never realized that food just played this huge part of the way we live, eat, breathe, think. Like, we are obsessed with food in our family and a little bit as Bengalis in my culture as well. But for me, I didn't realize how abnormal that was until I went to MasterChef and I went, oh my gosh, here are other people who are obsessed about food. And I felt like I'd finally met my community, and it was something I was kind of just quietly doing always in my life before then.
Well, you said it surprised you, but do you think it surprised anybody around you going, I didn't know she was that good. I just thought she cooked for the family.
Yeah, my husband.
Oh!
Yeah, absolutely. He's just, I think it's surprising where you weigh up when you're put into a competition or where you're put on a platform, or it's like, I think when you eat good food and you're just used to it and it's put in front of you every day, I don't think he would realize that it's competition level, or that these Michelin star chefs or were coming and complimenting it and actually considered it, what is the word? I don't want to say worthy, but I mean like real winning dishes, because the food that I was presenting on MasterChef was very authentically what people eat at home. So there's somewhere between 200 and 300 million Bengalis, almost 300 million actually, like the diaspora if you look at the world. And there isn't that representation. People aren't eating like the food that I was cooking, the begun bharta, which is like a smoked eggplant, or the panta bhat, which was my finale dish. These are your sort of very kitchen secrets. I think if people came over to your house, you wouldn't present these dishes. You would present Mughlai food, which is very rich, and it's like your biryanis and your pulaus and all the things that you put on show. So I think a big part of our culture was putting on show for other people. And here I was stripping out the bare naked truth facts that sometimes people are eating these very secret hidden dishes that we eat in our kitchens or when the doors are closed, and this is the food we share with our family. So I think it shocked me a little bit. It shocked my husband. I think it shocked a lot of people around the world, Bengalis around the world, to see these dishes on a global platform, and they were winning, and it took me to the grand finals.
And you now have a cooking show in Bangladesh. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so MasterChef Australia is just so loved. And it is much more crazy over in India and Bangladesh and across Asia and the Middle East.
Do they have their own iterations of MasterChef, or are they watching MasterChef Australia?
They do. So there's MasterChef India, and some people watch a little bit of MasterChef America, but MasterChef Australia is just really loved. It is the show that I think it's this iteration of the show is the most popular around the world, in like across Europe, across Africa. We get a lot of fan mail from South Africa, and then like Northern Europe, like Norway, and all these really random places. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think because the show really is lovely, nice, and like loving and nice. And people, for a reality TV show and for a competition that has, I guess, real competitors and real, like a real impact on people's lives. And it is an extremely competitive show. It's a very supportive one as well. And I think with all the other reality shows out there that really is looking at amplifying human nature, when we're in these environments of being extremely competitive and stressed and like sort of pushed to our limits. MasterChef does push you to your limit. You do see and feel those breaking points. You can see how real it is. Nothing is staged. But there is a kindness there where when things are hard, there is still people around you, whether it's the producers and the people who are on set and the extremely amazing team that are, that makes MasterChef Australia what it is. But the competitors each year, all of the contestants, they band around each other because when someone gets out, they're losing their dream, and you're happy that you're going on with yours. But it's very real. And I think there are not very many spaces, and there's not a lot of public spaces where we see that level of support where, you can continue your dream while your heart is breaking because the person you shared a kitchen with or shared a house with for the last, 2 months, 3 months or 6 months is about to sort of end their dream here on the show. So I think people see that, and it's human and it's very real and it's very supportive, and people love watching that without all the other drama.
Do you think it has anything to do with just how diverse and multicultural contestants are in Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of the few places on Australian television, forget about overseas, but on Australian television that really reflects the multicultural nature of the cities here in Melbourne. Like it's a real reflection of, the food that's being served in Darwin, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne especially. And it's a shame that it's so rare, and it's a shame that it's just, one of a few places in the mainstream Australian television that you are seeing diversity, and it's because the diversity does so well. So I think people who are watching this from overseas truly look at this and go, Australia is really this beautiful, loving, supportive, multicultural space where there is room for a lot of cooks in the kitchen. For me, I think, yes, it is a real representation of what it feels like for me to be an Australian. You know, it's not a huge leap to go into the MasterChef realm and see yourself and see other people of different, you know, ethnic backgrounds reflected there and doing well and being so successful. But I can't say the same when I turn on my TV in general.
Tell me about Kishwar's Kitchen Conversations.
Kishwar's Kitchen Conversation. So it started with an idea of the regular format of cooking to camera. And I sort of felt a little bit bored by that concept, and I felt like this is not what I want to do. And if I'm going to have a show, I really want to sort of show the type of conversations or the type of people I get to meet and the really interesting things I get to do when I am in India, when I am in Bangladesh. And some of those experiences that I've had post MasterChef, to me, are quite insane. I get to meet really extraordinary people, and those extraordinary people in turn tell me that they'd love to cook with me or have me cook for them. They're the conversations that I think the public needs to see. It is exactly the conversations I have when I'm invited into people's homes, whether they're cricketers or musicians or politicians or sort of heads of industry. They're so successful in their field, and sometimes it's also quite I guess it's a real juxtaposition to see extremely successful people, and I'd say mostly really extremely successful men. First of all, we're sitting on our couch and having these conversations about how, you know, the work that they do in their industry and how powerful they are, and they're all game changers and extremely interesting, incredible people. And then they come into the kitchen and they're making sort of prawn ravioli and their hands are shaking.
Yeah.
So it's a really human side to someone who is otherwise probably these amazing leaders or, you know, leaders in their fields. So I love that juxtaposition. I think cooking really grounds you. Cooking really brings you down to earth. And it also sets that stage and that platform to have really candid conversations that takes away from your work and, you know, draws you in and talks about the personal.
Who would be your dream co-chef, or who would you love to share a kitchen with, even if it was just for one meal?
Even for one meal. There's I'm going to say someone really obscure to start with. Rabindranath Tagore he wrote the Indian national anthem. He has a Nobel Prize in literature. Him and his family sort of set the scene for what Bengali cuisine really is.
Right.
And about how refined it is. But on the other end of that spectrum, I really want to be in a kitchen with Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Like, that is my dream.
Snoop Dogg, why?
Snoop Dogg, because he's written cookbooks. If I wasn't this person, I would write I can't say this.
I'll do it. Say it.
All right, I'm going to do it. I'd write a book that is just a cookbook that just says, should I eat when I'm high? I think that's when your taste buds are like at its absolute heightened senses.
Yeah, right.
And so this is why I didn't want to say it. Feel free to cut this out.
What to eat.
It so goes against the grain.
What to eat when you're high. I mean, but surely you shouldn't be cooking while you're high. It's just what you should eat when you're high.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a rule book too. It's a guide to things that I think would taste even better. But Snoop Dogg has written a cookbook, and I just think he's got a really, really good innate understanding. Because he's so high, he would have a good understanding of what is Moorish. No, truly, I like.
Look, Kishwar, this is the collaboration I never knew I needed to hear. But we have to make it happen.
We have to make this happen. And Martha Stewart, for all the obvious reasons.
Yes.
She's such an icon. She's such a perfectionist. She's just so, stands her ground. The things I love about her, apart from the fact that she's so on everybody's radar right now because of just how savagely Martha Stewart she is she gives a lot of empowerment to the people who do love to be in the kitchen or do love to be homemakers. And I found, at least in my generation, there was definitely a move away from that. I do find that being in the kitchen, loving to cook, just seems like a little bit of a letdown to the feminists who came before me or the feminists who are around me. And I think you can be both. You can be extremely grounded in, this is what I believe. I believe in a equal household, and I believe that it's everybody's responsibility and to rear your house, rear your children, be responsible for the labor of cooking that goes into everyday cooking. I'm not talking about those cool spaces and those cool gigs that we get to do that are coveted and like you see them and you get paid well for them. The labor of cooking mostly falls on the shoulders of women. And I speak about that quite a lot. But I'm just a woman who also just really loves to cook and host and have that side that was traditionally a very feminine thing to do.
I'm hearing so many things from you, Kishwar. You want to write a cookbook about getting high with Snoop Dogg, and then you also want to be a trad wife.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
So many layers to Kishwar Chowdhury, everybody.
So many layers. Good thing that this show will only run for 20 minutes. I'm going to undo myself for you, Antoinette.
I do understand. I mean, I love to cook, and I do pretty much all of the cooking in my family. For me, like you, it's also tied with culture and heritage. And also, like you, I do many things outside of the kitchen. I wonder whether this is more about, appreciating the art of cooking and also how much time good cooking takes.
Yeah.
Like, often it's like, what 10-minute thing can I pack in and quickly feed my family? Like, can we separate the two from being about feminism and just being about the art of cooking?
Yes, absolutely. Well, so there's two things there. I grew up in a household where my father cooked and my mother cooked. So for me, that I also truly didn't know that some men don't cook or don't go into the kitchen. That was something that I learned. So there's that idea that there is a masculine and feminine role in cooking, which I didn't really grow up seeing in my household. And then I think also the slow cooking and the art of cooking can be completely separated from the labor of cooking, which means the fact that we have to eat 3 meals a day and there has to be food on the table, whether it's Uber Eats, whether it's, whether you're cooking these elaborate slow-cooked meals. Both of those coexist. And I think the labor of cooking, I think I read somewhere that economies would fall if it wasn't for the free labor of women.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cooking comes very, very much in part of that economy. Just the time it takes or the thought process it takes to do the groceries and make sure that the fridge is full and the pantry is full, and just the time and labor and thought it takes away from the roles we play outside the home and outside the kitchen. So I think they're the things that need to be truly looked at. My generation, hopefully our generation, is the last of where we're constantly screaming for equal rights and equal time. And I think we're taking those measures because our lives are getting full, and I think the biggest currency that we have is time. So yes, why I believe in cooking, why I believe that it's important for little boys and little girls to learn cooking the slow way, whether it's on the weekend, whether it's once a month, whether it's an experience you have when there's special occasions with your whole family for, whether it's a religious festival or birthdays. I think those traditions and those things that we pass down, they tell a really true tale about our ancestry and our families, not just our culture and our heritage, but specifically to where your mum and your dad, which village they would have come from, where they would have stemmed from. And those stories, just like our recipes and a lot of ethnic recipes, are passed down very intelligently and not just through the written word. They're passed down through a lot of different senses. So obviously taste, smell. They tell you to use your agility in your fingers and touch of how much spices should be used. What are you looking for when things need to be browned and seared or roasted? So you're actually engaging so many senses to pass down something essentially that is a story on a plate. This is not just a written word. This is you're fully using your mind and your body and your concentration, and you're putting that into these dishes. And then you can say, this is what I'm passing down to you, and this is what you cook on Eid. This is what you cook on Christmas. And that story, I think, is a very, very deeply integral story that where language fails and where you can't pass down, I guess, music or song or art or many other things. I think food is a way of preserving that.
in addition to your wonderful aiming high cookbook idea with Snoop, I also want to pick your brain on what changes you're seeing in the foodie scene in Australia.
I think the biggest change that we're seeing across Australia and across the world, actually, you see this happening in LA and New York, and it's so exciting, is that you have second generation migrant children who are growing up to be chefs, much like myself, and they're moving away from their parents' takeaway store or takeout shop, and they're really, really taking ownership of their stories, their food, and they're bringing their cuisine into more fine dining spaces. And that brings a lot of value to those cuisines. Usually you look at sort of Vietnamese food or Indian food as this cheap takeaway, like it hits the spot, it's my post-hangover meal, and that's what it's mostly described at. And you want that $15 bowl of pho. You're not willing to spend that $35, $40 that you would on a bowl of pasta. Eurocentric cuisine has always been seen as more fine dining, or we put more value on those practices. But the truth is, I think young chefs across Australia and across the world are taking back their stories, taking back that voice, challenging that notion, and really, really taking their food and their cultural food and cultural food identity into another stratosphere. And I'm so, so happy about that.
That is chef and food influencer Kishwar Chowdhury. Now it is time for, well, I hope it's your favourite time of the week, because it certainly is mine. It is the Weekend List, where Helen Smith joins me and guides me on what to eat, watch, see, do, and everything in between. Helen, what are your recommendations?
My first recommendation, you probably have seen all over the internet the past week. It's apple cider vinegar on Netflix.
Yes.
I have so many mixed feelings. Now, I'm semi-recommending this, but I actually didn't finish it because I couldn't. Just because I felt icky watching it.
So this is about Belle Gibson,
yes,
who faked cancer,
yes,
the Australian woman who got a whole heap of media attention and
book deals, app deals, was lots of lucrative money and lucrative deals involved in her story. And Netflix sells this as a true-ish story, and that's exactly what it is. It's true-ish, because we work with a lot of journalists and people who actually were involved with Belle's story in the beginning, and it's true-ish. It's not real what they're saying. And also the glamorization of somebody who faked cancer and potentially gave people medical advice when she had no accreditation, no medical advice to people who were really vulnerable stages of cancer.
Is the reason it's called apple cider vinegar, is that one of the things she recommended?
Well, it's wellness. It's like, it's kind of a joke on the wellness industry, and that's how Netflix is selling it. But oh my God, there's so many levels to this show. We actually did a deep dive with one of Belle's ex-friends. Yeah. So we put out this episode, How I Exposed Belle Gibson's Cancer Con and what Netflix got wrong. So we did this with Chanel, who was actually portrayed in the series as Belle's manager and a friend of this other influencer called Miller in the series. And we kind of got the full truth of this was not real. The narrative is spun so out of proportion.
Is that because I know some people have come out and said they don't like the portrayal of their characters, even if...
It's portrayal and it's also facts.
Yeah,
like they're getting facts wrong. That's true-ish. Netflix knows that it's true-ish. It's a drama.
Yeah, but my understanding also was that it was a journalist who revealed her to be a fraud, not a friend/manager.
Yes. So it was two journalists and then aren't the journalists who wrote the book. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay.
But if you listen to that chat, there's more coming out about this story. But hey, if you're interested, give it a watch on Netflix. Take it with a grain of salt.
Why didn't you finish it?
I felt that it was a bit gross to glamorize someone who was spreading dangerous misinformation in this way.
So this is a watch and proceed with caution.
Yeah, but also... Look, it's an interesting, fascinating story, but I think they could have just stuck to the real truth of the story is wild enough in itself.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, my recommendation is also on a streamer. It is not based on facts, and I say proceed with absolute no caution because I love it. I am a little bit late to the party because there are 5 seasons of it. It is Bump on Stan.
Oh, yeah.
I've never watched it before, and I was like, how have I not watched this before? And I feel like I'm late to a lot of parties.
I actually haven't watched it either, so
it is incredible. So it is a hit Aussie comedy about teenage parents, but because it's over 5 seasons, it is really matured into something that's relatable, genuinely funny, and can be frequently devastating. And I just love this show so much, and because it's not, and how do I put this? It's not the most dramatic drama and it's not the funniest comedy, but it's this really beautiful blend of both. And it has some huge Aussie names, Claudia Carvin and Angus Sampson, who play the parent of the teen mum. But the standouts for me is actually Nathalie Morris, who is the teen mum, and her bestie Safia Arain. And I just couldn't love it anymore. And I highly recommend it if you are like me and haven't gotten around, like you.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten around to watching it. It is just so good. Bump on Stan.
I almost like getting into things that already have a few seasons so I know I can binge it and actually not have to wait for it. So I'm definitely going to give this one a go because I've run out of things to watch. But my next recommendation is, look, not groundbreaking, but it's changing my life a little bit and my health. It's those pill sorting boxes.
I call them like the Nana boxes.
The Nana boxes.
Yes.
It's giving geriatric.
Yeah.
But it's honestly the best thing. I've been putting my vitamins in it and having it on my desk. So making sure I'm taking all my vitamins and all these tablets that mum's trying to make sure I'm taking, which is good. But I always forget them. But I bought a little cute purple one. It's just on my desk, sorts out everything, has the days on it, and you can fit it in your handbag if you take it on weekends. I'm just obsessed. And I'm like, well, the Nana pill box is great.
It is really good. And there are ones that take it up a notch. There's AM, PM, certain.
Mum has the AM,
yeah,
PM.
I have the AM, PM as well. And because opening up various, whether it's you're taking the pill or you're taking medication or you're taking magnesium, fish oil, half the trouble is opening 7 or 8 pill boxes or vitamin boxes a day and actually doing it. I know this sounds very much like first world problems, but if you want to commit to your health, then it really, really does help.
Or if you're on a prescription and you actually need to take it, it's a great way to not forget, which, you know, seems very basic, but if it's out of sight, it's out of mind for me. So if it's in front of me, I'll do it. So there you go.
I love that. I have something that is for people who love musicals, which I do. I really love musicals. And I really appreciate musicals because when I sing, I sound like a small animal is being tortured. But they're often quite expensive. So unless I get freebies via work, because when you're in the media, sometimes you get tickets to things, which is lovely. I don't really go and buy. They can be hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, they can.
And so what I've started doing, this is my musicals on the cheap hack. Local high schools put on musicals.
Stop it.
No, wait. Don't judge, right? And I thought it was going to be terrible, but I've been to some local ones because either a family friend or somebody we know is going to be in it. And a couple of them have actually blown me away. Especially when they're like, obviously they have child-centric characters like an Annie, or I saw a Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. I think I paid $30 for my ticket. It blew me away. And these schools work on them for 2 years. It's not just like, we're just going to get a couple of kids from the drama class and whack them on stage. It's like a proper commitment. And I'm going to see Mary Poppins in a few weeks. And it's just like a local Catholic school.
Yep.
And I've heard really great things. Don't diss it.
No.
So check out the musicals at local schools, and especially the ones that the ones that are committed to putting out a musical every 2 years.
Yeah, quality.
They have a bit of a system in place and they're known. And I just reckon it's a good way to see some musicals and do it on the cheap.
No, I do love this because I went to a massive performing arts school. So the musical, we did it yearly, but the musical at our school was massive. Thousands of dollars involved as well. Right. It was huge. Okay. So, some high schools and even primary schools, especially if there's those selective schools, they're amazing because those kids are they're
really
talented.
Stupidly talented. Yeah. The ones I've seen haven't been a performing arts school. So if you want to turn it up a notch, go check out a performing arts school. Anyway, that's my hack. See a musical and don't pay a lot of money for it. But that is it. That is all we have time for this week on The Briefing. If you haven't already downloaded the Listener app, you can do that in your app store. Follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And while you're at it, tell us your thoughts on this chat with Kishwar, which I really enjoyed. And I'm super looking forward to a cookbook while you're high. That is it from me. The team will be back in your headphones on Monday with the headlines and a fascinating deep dive. Take care of yourself. Catch you next week.
Listener.